I identify pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Hotep, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How y'all doing? Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto all of you. We thank you that you have tuned in to the Jah and the Kev show. My name is Jah, and this brother that's sitting across from me is Kev, and he is on fire tonight. You may ask, well, why is Kev on fire tonight? Well, he's on fire tonight because of the subject. The subject we're going to be talking about is the black man's new status symbol. And the black man's new status symbol is none other than the white woman. Kev, why should we start this broadcast off talking about that subject?
Because I think I think that is the perception is that black men, once we reach a certain status,
Okay.
it seems like more of us have a white. We go out, maybe seek a white woman, seeking white women to have a white woman by our side. So, and I think that's the perception. Now, they always say perception is reality,
Right?
And and that's what I do want to question. That is that actually the case, or is that how we feel? Is that how you feel? Do you feel like that?
Well, the thing I want to get into tonight, I'm going to harp on, and it's going to be some of the misunderstandings about the factors. In other words, why does a black man, why does an African American, why does he feel that he needs this white woman to make him? Why? Yeah. Why is she his status symbol? You know, why has he elevated her? Because I know in the context of our historical trauma and all of this, there are some reasons why we feel that way. Now, we know you can love who you want to love, but some of us, we get to a point where until we get this woman, we feel a certain way, and then we actually elevate this woman, and we're going to look at why do we think that way and how these factors have shaped some of our choices. In other words, based upon our condition. And when it boils down to these factors reflect a psychological and cultural impact when it comes to racism, you know, as far as what has happened to us. Now, I do want to lay the groundwork before I turn it back over to Kev is what we're talking about tonight. We're not talking about all black men, not all African-American men, because I did a little research on the Census Bureau. And basically my notes tell me that the Census Bureau takes place every 10 years. And in this particular Census Bureau, they started back in 2000. And in 2000, 85% of black men or African-American men, they married African-American women. Right. And then in 2010, 70%, you see a little drop. And then in 2020, it went back up to 77%. So the average black man is going to marry a black woman. Yeah. What we're talking about are those who achieve a certain status, the entertainers, the celebrities, the movie stars, the athletes. These are the ones that seem, Kev, when they get a little bit more wealth. Those are the ones that you see every time you turn around, you look on TV, somebody's got a white woman on her side.
Right. So this is what I wanted to get into with that. Okay. When I said perception becomes reality, it's reality to us. And I think the reason that we may think that is because when we're watching the NBA, right, or we're watching the NFL draft, or we're seeing these ball players, because that's who we're paying attention to. The other people that may have sisters by their side, they're just everyday Joes, and we don't pay attention. They're not on TV. So the ones that we see a lot, and maybe we're just paying more attention to them. Right. And maybe that's the perception. I mean, I don't think it is, because I also did some research, and I was looking at the NBA, the NFL, and some of these things like that. But also I'm gonna throw in there something else. The statistics say that 25% of black men, like up 10 years ago, 25% of them married outside of their race. You know, may not be just a white woman, but they married outside of their race. Why half of that, less than half of our black women did so. And our black women is the lowest group as far as women in the group that does that marries outside their race. Okay. Now, I'm thinking that the dynamics between us two, but also because, like, when I was thinking about the military, we travel overseas, and my thing is access. Well, who do you have access to? Like, some of our entertainers, that we start making more money,
right,
you start broadening your horizons and having more different people around you. And maybe that's a natural thing. Whereas, and also some of that may be going in the military. I see a lot of people that has gone to the military. They have Asian wives, or they go to Europe. They marry German women, and maybe they're looking for it.
Okay.
But I'm saying they have more access to, while women don't go in the military as much. Or they're not ball players, football players, and things like that. And I think when you start getting up in status, you start having access to more people. And maybe that's, I'm giving an excuse for it. Man.
Yeah, and I'm going to shoot that excuse down, because some of that is absolutely true, what you just said, accessibility. But what I wanted to talk about is there's a mindset that we must talk about. And the mindset is a conditioning. It's a historical conditioning where many of us African American men, what we do is we have been so traumatized growing up and seeing what happened to our people and looking at Europeans as a symbol of wealth and power and all of this. So now we feel that when we get this white woman, now we feel like we're somebody because she's representing wealth, she's representing affluence. And so what has happened is it's that mindset that we have taken that mindset, and that is the destructive part, because those factors have to be dealt with.
And I think that's a reality. I was given benefit of the doubt, some of the statistics. It's because also in the study, I seen a lot of our women has, once they reach a status too, a lot of our celebrities, they're marrying, I didn't know, like marrying white men or outside of their race. But for the black man, I do think it's a status symbol.
Yes, sir.
I think the new Cadillac, see, and the black man has this the stigma.
Okay.
We this individuality, like I'm trying to stand out. We want to stand out in the way, and I think a lot of the ways that they think that they stand out, like it used to be the Cadillac.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, a lot of people got a Cadillac, but I got to do something different with mine. I got to have something that he doesn't have to make myself stand out.
Right.
And a lot of times I think we started doing that, and it started being a white woman. Everybody has a white woman. I mean, a black woman in the hood, but you want to do something that they don't have. I want to have something that you don't have access to. And a lot of like where we live at, it's a lot of segregation. People don't realize that Texas is one of the most segregated states, if not the most segregated state in the union. And we're not growing up around others, like especially white people, like maybe in some places they may bleed over. So I think a lot of times what you don't have, or what you don't see a lot of, is what you covet. And I think it's a coveting that happens psychologically.
Wow. This is a beautiful discussion, because Kev is coming at this thing from an angle, and I'm coming at it from an angle. And when you look at how these angles, when they meet, you're going to see the fireworks, because I also believe that there's internalized racism that have happened to us. Now, what do you mean, Jahi, when you say that? I mean, some of us have accepted the stereotypes that have been put on us. In other words, some people have taken our race as the so-called inferior race. And so they want something that they can say, hey, I'm not a part of that. So because of low self-esteem, now I'm talking in terms of those African-American men who have this mindset, because all of us don't have it, but a great deal of us do. And I'll be of us off the hook, because a lot of us feel in our hearts, we look down upon our race, so-called. We look down upon us as a people. And so we feel like if we get someone that's different, as you said, because we've been conditioned to believe that black is bad, black is wrong, black is last, black is nothing. So now in our hearts, we actually feel better, because as you mentioned earlier, this is what is called a pseudo validation, you see. So now, because I got this, in other words, when you see me now and I got my black wife, I got my black woman, I'm like, what's up, Kev? But when you see me with a white woman on the side of my arm, hey, Kev, what's up, man? Look at me, you understand? And I'm just flaunting. I'm somebody, man. I think I'm really something because this woman, and as you're looking at me, you can see I'm different now, because when I had the black wife, when I had the black woman, I was Jah, hey, Kev. But now that you see this white woman, man, I'm something else, Kev, and you can't tell me anything.
And I think also with the history of this country, and it's not just this country, I think it's abroad also. And I think the history, I heard Farrakhan say a long time ago, he said, he was speaking, I believe, at Michigan State at college, and he was talking about the black men that was trying to have these white women on their arms. He's like, once upon a time, you would get lynched for looking up.
Yes, sir.
Under a dress of a white woman that was hanging on the clothesline. Now she ain't even got to be wearing it. If you looked up, you would get lynched for that. Now you're trying your best. And psychologically, I think it plays a part because this is the biggest taboo. It's like historically, you would get lynched for having a relationship like this. And then the people that'll have oppressed you, they look down on you and they gave you this mindset.
Yes, sir.
And now you're getting validation from someone that you now that's like lifting you up.
Wow.
Because I'm taking it to the highest extreme of this woman is the one, she's at the other end of the spectrum, of the ones that used to step on us. And for her to want me, maybe that's validating myself.
Yeah, that's true, Kev. In 1967, for those who don't know, the first time that an African-American male could marry a white woman or vice versa was in 1967. The case was called the Loving versus Virginia. Right. And ever since 1967, we were able to marry outside of our so-called race. Before that, you just mentioned you would get lynched, you would get hung, or people would disown you of the other race if they saw you with a person of their type. So that's only been 58 years, Kevin. That's not that long ago. But see, what we want, we not only want validation, man. What we really want is affirmation as well. Because when you affirm me, when I'm with a white woman, I see her as more desirable. And I'm not going to get off these factors tonight, because instead of seeing black women as desirable, because women are desirable because they're women, but some of the mindsets we have, we see that because this white woman is in my camp now I have been affirmed. In other words, I can't stop saying this. Look at Jahi. Look at him now. So now I got my chest stuck out because now people are affirming me, and it's a pseudo affirmation. Because I've been brainwashed, I really feel that way.
Right. And I think it's on a two folds also with that, because we have been affected, our standards of beauty affected by racism.
Yes.
So even the black woman that you may have, you're looking for that bright with European features. That becomes the standards of beauty that has been imposed upon us. So a lot of times we're looking at it, and she may not even have to be white, but then the white is the standard of beauty, because we've been taught that this is the beautiful, this is what King Kong wanted, this is what Jane and Tarzan and all these things, everybody wanted that white woman. That white woman is pristine. And in our mindset of what we're blinded by with beauty, we're looking for the most beautiful person. Some in our mind, some of our minds, so this is the one, this is at that pedestal. And I think that plays a big part also.
It plays a huge part, because in our minds we see what you just said. Man, you hit the nail right on the head. I told y'all this brother was on fire. But what I'm trying to get at is you hit it when you said about European beauty standards. We had a show that we talked about some of this in the past, but we talk about how if a person's hair is straight, that's good hair. Europeans' hair is straight. That's not good hair, but that's what some of us think. If you're bright like myself or brighter than me, we actually think we're cuter than someone who is darker skin hue-wise. So that's a psychological damaging that has happened to us that still plays out today because of the standards that many of us have accepted as beauty. But when you see a black woman, you see her and she's beautiful as well, but we don't see her that way. And
we don't value her.
We really don't. We don't value her.
We'll see her beauty. We'll see her beauty, but we don't value her.
We don't value her. But now, and see, we even deny the beauty. We would deny it. Now, you and I and other brothers who are down and realize where beauty is, we will see that. It reminds me this joke that a man told me before, and I was like, I got to say this on the long-winded on the joke, but it goes back to how we like Eurocentric things better than we do our own. Two men worked together for almost 30 years, Kev, and every day they would go into the break room, and the one man would drink coffee, man, and he would drink it black, nothing but black. He wouldn't put sugar in it, he wouldn't put cream in it. And the other man noticed this, and after 30 years, the one man that was drinking the black coffee, he didn't show up. So the other guy goes into the break room and he asks all the guys, why does he drink this black coffee? And they said, man, this brother like his coffee just like he like his women, jet black. So the other guy says, well, I better go get me some milk then. I mean, because he wanted that, man. He loved that, you see.
All right. So if y'all want to call in, the number is 361-405-6111. And I know some people got a lot of opinion. I
Yes.
put it like that. A lot of opinions about this. But I think it's interesting. I think it's psychological. Like you said, people could fall in love with who they fall in love with. But my thing is, and this is what I'm gonna read a comment. I'm gonna first, let's thank some of the people that showed up so far. I appreciate Maurice for showing up, and my page keep jumping down. Maybe y'all commenting. She said Hotep, and when she said, why can you not? It just jumped down again. I can't get this from all right. She said, why can you not just love a white lady without racial implications? And it's just as a white woman that's asking this question, and we can answer that. And Sakina, she gave the greetings. Walaikum assalam, sister. Lede, she said, good evening, gentlemen. Coretta, she said, hey, y'all, speak on it. And Jacqueline had another. She said, interracial couples face discrimination and hardships every single day from all sides. There's no elevation status for interracial couples. We have to be stronger and more dedicated to our love relationships. All right, so you want to comment on the first one? She said, "Why can't we not just love a white lady without racial implications?"
Well, we can, but this country was built on race, so we can't act as if everything is just like lily white and everything is good and there's no issues. We have been dealt with from a social standpoint for over 400 years about race, so we have to look at that. Now, ideally, we should be able to. But this is why you see a lot of black women, when they see black men and white women, sometimes they look at this brother because your mother's black. Your sisters, your daughters, all of them are African American or black. So the point that I'm trying to get to is ideally we should be able to, but in America, we're not able to because of what has happened to us, during slavery. And so, and the subject that we're talking about is just some of us men, our mindset, our mindset. Now, if those people get in a relationship and they don't look at it this way, I'm not talking to them, neither are you. We're talking about some of the black, the name of the broadcast tonight happens to deal with the black man's new status symbol. Why we elevate the white woman. So many of us still do that, and we can't acknowledge this if we don't.
And I'm gonna jump in on that also. I don't want to confuse the issues. Like you just said, you can fall in love with who you fall in love with. But the thing is, if you look at the numbers, and the reason that when you look at the draft or you look at the NBA, I'm gonna get into this. If it's not an issue, see Essence Magazine, September 12th of 2023, over a year ago, they had a whole article, and she said the NFL black wives, they do exist. See, this is something that they're saying, like most of it's not the success, because like you gave the race. People are men under making $100,000 that's not famous. They're with black women. I seen this said 83% of them was with black women. So the rest of it is interracial. That's 17%. So you could say white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. But when you're just average Joe, you're with your own. But when you reach a certain status, it's like, I gotta have this on my arm. And it's just like us saying, I gotta have this Mercedes. I gotta have this BMW, or a woman saying, I gotta have this bag, a certain bag, because I've reached a status. A bag is the same as any other bag. I mean, it's not doing anything, but it's a status symbol. And this is what we're talking about, status symbol. So when you have a woman and you're treating her as not just, she's just a regular beautiful wife I have, but you're treating as, because the numbers change. Because if Essence is saying 12 black wives in the NFL, you know how many players, black players is in the NFL. A majority of the players are in the NFL are black.
Yes, sir.
So it's only they saying black women do exist. This means that after you reach a certain status, you got to go and jump the fence. Not that it's anything wrong with jumping the fence, but after the numbers change. Why is that? And this is what we're talking about. That's something psychological. If I'm okay being with a black woman, when I'm making $100,000, $200,000, then I get rich. Then I got to change. And we've seen this with these celebrities.
All the time.
We've seen these with Michael Jordan.
All the time.
You know, this woman was with you in high school, and when you was in college. Then when you got that big contract, now all of a sudden you with this younger and it's a white Sugar Ray Leonard, the same thing.
OJ
You said
Simpson,
OJ
Lionel
Simpson,
Richie. We go on and on and on and on.
On and on.
Right.
You could just go on and on. So this is something that's happening.
Right. And I definitely want to say this to the sister that gave that challenge to us. Again, there are two things that happen all the time in life, and we can't confuse the two. One of them is a theory. In other words, theoretically speaking, it should be this way. That's the theory. Mm-hmm. But the reality is it's not that way. And so that's what I think you and I are dealing with, because we always get those theoretical questions or theoretical statements about how it should be. And in a perfect world, it should be that way.
Right.
But when you take into consideration all that has happened to us as African Americans, and when a person gets a woman, like you mentioned, on their arm, now they think because of that woman that she's a prize. You see, she is a trophy. When you and I are saying, no, she's just a woman like anybody else. But in some of our minds, she's not. And if that's if that's not the reason, then why do we seek them when we get this a certain amount of economic wealth?
And I'm gonna say that we know it's a problem because people that we deal with that's in interracial marriages, and sometimes people that's it's a psychological thing for Black people. I'm gonna say this. I had a coworker, a Black woman. She was with a white dude, and so their kids were mixed. And she said, like, she had siblings and their kids were not mixed. And she said, well, my mother treats my kids because she loves my kids more. You see, that's in your mind. That's a problem. If you love someone more because their complexion, this is something that we face in our community. I know how you would want it to be.
Exactly.
And the reason, like the second thing Jacqueline said, she said interracial couples face discrimination and hardships every single day from all sides because things are not in this perfect world. The reason that you will face hardships from your own people if you're a white woman is because of racism.
Yes, sir.
The reason you're going to face hardships from the Black community is because racism, but because of different reasons, because we have been affected by racism. And we used to be home, and our women used to be raped by these people and all these things like this. And now you're turning around and you're turning your back and you're thinking you're elevating and going for something else. So it's different reasons you're going to face hardships from both sides. It's not just Black women hate white women. It's like they're looking at all the stuff we get to, like Farrakhan said, you used to get home for looking up under the dress on the clothesline. And and it's like you said, only up until so many years ago we were able to be married, and that's the love is there. I'm not doubting that. But when you have people that elevate it and use you as a status symbol, now you may not have been in a relationship where you were used as a status symbol, or maybe you have and couldn't recognize it. But when that man is talking to his friends, and I had somebody, and I told you this before, a family member. I'm not going to put them on blast, but I'm driving down the road, east side, and I see family member. I'm like, wait, that's my fam. So I pull over. And I'm like, yo, man, what's up? What you walking? Get in the car. First thing this person says to me, they're young. He said, man, I got me a white girl. Okay, well, how's your mom doing? How's your family doing?
Right. Why was that significant?
Why is that so significant to you that's got to be the first thing that comes out your mouth? Because that's a psychological issue that we're trying to address.
Exactly. That's perfectly stated. And then you also have to throw into the mix too that many of us are not right when it comes to our esteem. You have to look at that.
Right.
When you've been told you are no good, when you've been told you're a nigger, when you've been told you're less than a man, when you've been told all these things, you have to realize that Kevin, that our esteem is affected by that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to find someone. That looks different than me, that carries more status in my mind. So therefore, when I achieve this, I've done something and I want the world to know. Because if I had found another young lady that was of the same so-called race of mine, I wouldn't even think of telling you that. I would talk about something else. So that was significant because sometimes when our esteem is low, we look to others to validate and affirm who we are.
I appreciate those comments from you. And we're going to go to other comments. Barbara Royal said, Hotep, I appreciate you showing up, sister. Josiah, he said, Dr. Omar feels the same. He says Black men shouldn't date white women. I don't know if that's what we're saying. We're not saying that. I don't know the same as that, but he says that. And Coretta said, she said, it's a problem when a Black man says they will only date a white woman. Then that's a self-hate to me, and I appreciate that. And that's perfectly said. I appreciate us, Shannon Simpson Anderson, for showing up also.
Well, we got a call, brother. I'm gonna let this call through,
brother. The phone is the calling didn't hang up. Man.
It did.
Yeah,
okay,
so we're gonna
we'll
hold that caller.
Okay,
we're gonna try to reconnect to the caller in the studio.
Okay, and then we'll talk about while he's getting that together, how cultural assimilation. Some of us think that aligning with white women may provide more opportunities for upward mobility and social acceptance. See,
right.
we think that we can assimilate into a system, and once we assimilate, we're like everybody else. You'll never be like them in a sense where the way you're seen, the way you're viewed, the way you're affected by laws, the way you're affected by economics, the way you're affected by the prison system, the way you're affected by the educational system. But some of us feel like once we achieve and get a white woman, whether we're dating or marrying her, we actually feel, brother, that we have assimilated. We're not who we are. We're someone different.
Right. All right. So we got to reconnect, which means we're going to have to put the code and everything back in for the call studio. Okay. I don't know why it hung up in the first place, but I'm gonna reconnect and then I'm gonna have to get the code from
okay.
You.
Okay. Okay, and I'll keep talking while you're getting that together. And another reason is because of what is called the historical influence of slavery and colonialism. So what I'm saying is there's been a long history of slavery and colonialism, and what that did was that reinforced the idea of white superiority and African American inferiority. We cannot let that go. He wants the code 873-472. Again, 873-472. And we can't act as if that has not affected us. And again, we've got to be honest. We got to be honest tonight in this discussion. And we hope that people can understand the context in which you and I are saying. We're saying that many men, African American men, we're saying that these men, we feel as though because we have or we're in a relationship with a European woman, we actually feel that we have done something. And we don't feel that way with anyone else.
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room.
So the caller, we want you to call back because we definitely want to have some kind of dialogue, because I hope you understand that this broadcast is talking about the black man's new status symbol. Those who feel this way, if you don't feel this way and you are saying, oh, I'm not like that or whatever, then we're not talking to you. But sometimes when you shoot in the dark, you hit something.
Right. No, I understand. I appreciate the because we have to have clarification on what we're talking about also, because also the numbers change. Like I said, Essence did a study. Then also for the Super Bowl, Essence did something this week. What they call them is wives and girlfriends, and they call them WAGs. And they had a photo shoot for the Eagles.
Okay.
Last year. At some extravaganza when they made it to the Super Bowl last time.
Okay.
And they had one and they had a photo shoot of all the what they call WAGs, wives and girlfriends of the players. Now you think of an NFL roster, there's like over 50 something players on there. And like I said, majority of them are black. But most of the women, it was one black woman in this photo that they took. The wives and girlfriends of the Philadelphia Eagles.
What?
And this went viral because people were saying, it's something missing, you know. So this is not the norm of what society or what the census is telling us on the average Joe. If it was just normal, then it'll be all across the board. It wouldn't matter. People just marry people, but it's like after you reach a certain status, now everything changes. And this is what we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And then also we have some of us knuckleheads. We have some of us knuckleheads who we will be in a relationship with an African-American young lady. And maybe that relationship went sour. Maybe something happened that it shouldn't have happened. And now we're going to say, I would never date an African-American woman again.
Right.
So now we're going to go out and look for a European woman as if women are not women. Right. Relationships, we take our baggage into one relationship and we dump it on the whole so-called race of women. And that's pathetic. But there are a lot of men, Kev, who feel that way because they might have gotten burned in a relationship by an African-American woman. And then they'll say, well, I don't date African-American women just because that relationship didn't work. There's a great deal of great black women.
We do that period with everything black. I mean, we deal with our businesses. You know, something happened when you go to a black restaurant and the food isn't exactly how you wanted it. Then it's like, see, this is why I don't deal with black black businesses. See, this is psychological. This is racism's, the effects of racism and hateism.
Yes,
this is we start to hate ourselves. I'm not talking about bigotry where someone else hates you. I'm talking about what's been embedded in our own minds about the inferiority complex, and somebody else has a superiority complex. And see, this is the thing that you're facing when you're talking about interracial marriages. No man at any race wants to see their women with somebody else. No, so that's a normal thing. But then when it's racism, this is effects of racism, because that's a power that someone has and they control your mind. It's not bigotry. It's not being prejudiced. This is racism is systemic. So they have affected how we see ourselves. They have affected how we see our saviors. So if you look like our savior in our mind, they're going to put you on a higher pedestal. So this is the problem that we're talking about.
And let me tell you something that is really, really silly and asinine as far as a thought process. Some of us men, African American, we look for European women because we know that an African American woman ain't gonna take the bull, you know what, off of us. Let's talk about that, because we can't act like that doesn't happen. So we feel, and I heard Richard Pryor say this many years ago, and I thought it was one of the funniest things that he said, but it was so true. He said that some black men go out and get a white woman because they feel like they can do anything with a white woman or get over and do dirt, and the white woman is not going to challenge them, which I disagree with, because women are women. It just depends on the kind you get. But see, a lot of us brothers, we know that you cannot go and come in the house at 3 o'clock in the a.m. and tell your African American queen, you can't tell her that you were at the bowling alley at 3 or 4 o'clock. But you feel like you can maybe go tell another European woman, well, I was at the bowling alley, and she's going to say, okay, baby, that's no problem. Let's get ready and go to bed or something like that.
Or the way the argument may go is different. I put it like that. She may fuss about it. She may, not agree with it, but you can, this is why you don't understand me. You can always throw that out there or something like that. I have friends that say stuff like that. I have friends that's in interracial marriages. See, and this is what I'm talking about, Jacqueline. Something like we have friends and stuff that's in relationship. We know people that's in these type of relationships in the things that they will say. And some of them say, like, I heard people say, I don't want to date a black woman. I'm looking for, not that they found a white woman, but I'm looking for this. And this is a psychological thing for you not to love yourself. And it doesn't like, you can fall in love with who you fall in love with. But if anybody falls in love with somebody outside of their own and think that that's better than their own, then you have, and that's what we have a problem with. I don't want to, if you fall in love, that's fine. But then the trends that we're seeing at a certain level, it's like once I reach a status, everything changes for me. Now, I used to have this girl in the hood that came up with me. I used to be Michael Jordan, and this girl I met from high school. I used to be Tiger Woods, and maybe he was never in that type of thing. And this is what he preferred when he's messing around with 18 women and all of them look the same. That tells me that this is something that you're just going after. You're not just going after beauty. You're a damn near billionaire. Then you're not just going after beauty, period. Your standards of beauty is slighted.
And some of us see whiteness as a symbol of power. That some of us men, when we get a white woman and we're in a relationship with her, in our minds, we know that Europeans, when it comes to the power and what happens in our country. And so to us, we feel as though we got a piece of that power because she's in our lives. And you can't tell us any differently, because the way we think about her, the way we have elevated her, the way we have esteemed her, the way we have honored her, in our minds, we feel though I've gotten a piece of that power because this woman represents a whole group of people who have power. This is a faulty thought process, but this is a thought process yet still.
Well, we thought that God is white. We think God is white. You see it in our church. So that's the ultimate power. So why would you not think? And that's a psychological thing that's been embedded in us. If the Son of God is white, then what God must be, then everybody that's white, it must be, from that bloodline. And also, like you were saying, well, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna let me read a comment first. Okay. She said, Candace, I appreciate she showing up. She said, I feel black women look for white men for security, and black men look for white women for status, and not having to put up with the black woman's BS. Wow.
Well, all women have BS. All women have BS. Because the black woman doesn't see, and that's another thing, is how we see ourselves. And I get what she's saying, because that is true in many instances. But all women have BS, you see. And here's the thing. I want to clarify something now. You can straighten me out if I'm wrong. We even look at black women who marry wealthy black men. We call them gold diggers.
Right.
But when a millionaire or trillionaire African-American man marries a white woman, we don't see her as a gold digger.
Right.
So we even make songs about us. This is as you keep saying, this is psychological mutilation. So the black woman is sung about and talked about as a gold digger because she wants what is hers. You know, if they've been married for all these years and they get a divorce or whatever, she should get something. But if the white woman gets it when he dies and everything that happens like that, we don't think of her as a gold digger. And if you want to really look at it, if you really want to define what a real gold digger is, a real gold digger are many white women who marry black men who have wealth, because if they didn't have wealth, you wouldn't get the time of day. They wouldn't give you 1 second look. But when you flaunt this money, when you flaunt this wealth, when you flaunt this fame, then they want to be seen because they know for a fact you are a secure blanket.
You're not like the rest of us. You're
exactly.
Not like the rest of us.
Exactly.
Wow, you blew that one up.
Well, no, Kev, I just because I hear that all the time. When a black woman and a black man do something together and they break up, then the woman says, "I want mine." They say, "Well, not like Chris Rock's wife. Well, she's a gold digger." But yet, when he marries a European or something like that, they never call her a gold digger. That's a mindset that have destroyed many of us, and that's just how we look at it. And again, we're going back to the black man's status symbol right now is a white woman. Many of it. We're not saying everybody, and we're also talking about those who really have wealth. Right. Because if you don't have wealth, many white women ain't gonna give you the time of day.
And yeah, and so I mean that I think that's more. I think some people that don't have wealth, that, like I say, a family member that I met that ran into. And I'm gonna tell you another thing.
Another call. I think it came back. Let's see if this call came back.
All right, we could go on and take the call. See if we could.
Okay, caller, you're on the air. Welcome to the Jah and Kev show. What's on your mind about this situation we're talking about?
I'm enjoying your conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, well, I don't know if it's a problem. This could be me.
Okay.
But I look at it as when I see a black man with a white woman, even in our entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
You start off with a black woman that you struggle with. She struggled with you, and all that, and then you go. You stay with them for a few years. You have kids and all this kind of stuff, and then you get a divorce, and then you go the opposite way. You go to a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The black woman understands your struggle. Because they're in the struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that, it does bother me. I mean, I'm not going to just come up in your face or dislike you for that. But inside me, I do have an issue with that, because as a black woman, I understand my black man's struggle, because we've been struggling. And when I see that status quo where I see a black man, and they don't even have to have money. Just like you said, it's a Cadillac. They want to say, "Oh, I got this white woman." This white woman don't understand your struggle. And then you say a black woman, when they get with him, "Oh, she's a gold digger." She ain't no gold digger.
No, she's not. No, she's not.
You need to look at the other way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they are the gold diggers. Because the only way they're going to talk to you is if you have money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So who is really the gold digger?
Kev, I'm gonna let you talk about that, because we thank you for that call, Queen. I'm gonna let brother Kevin talk about that, and then I'm gonna chime in, because I'm gonna let him go ahead and cook now. You go ahead and cook on that.
That was beautifully said. I think that some people don't understand that's outside of our race.
Okay.
That like you said, like she said, the black woman has struggled with you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this. Like I said, a lot of men going around the world, going to Europe and stuff like that. The German men didn't want to see us with the German women. The black guys, they didn't want to see us. They didn't want to see the Americans with us, let alone now they had more visceral with when it's black. See, that's the racism, because they thought less of us. Now, the part that I do want to say this: the race that marries interracially the less is the white race. They're only at 7% of their marriages, and most of those are probably majority white women that's marrying black males. But I'm saying they're the ones that do it the least. So when you talk about racism having an effect, when she was saying the black woman understands our struggle, she understands our history, and everything that she was there with us, and then all of a sudden you jump in the fence. But then not just that you jump in, but you're acting. It's natural for people to feel that way,
right?
Because if you look at the history of the world, no one bats an eye if the Germans, if a Jewish community gets upset with a Jewish woman for marrying a German male, because they're going to look at the history. You have a right to be upset, but see, with us, we don't have those rights to be upset or to think or look at you a certain way because you're marrying into someone that has put us through a Holocaust.
Wow, Kev. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than all these things that we're amalgamating and putting together. It goes back to show that our minds have been affected to such a degree that we feel just like we do when we get something new and we're not used to it. You know, when we get a new this, a new that, sometimes we actually think highly of ourselves because it's new. But when we get a European woman, a white woman, we're talking about the men that do that, because there are very many of us who do. They're not going to look at an African-American woman when they achieve a certain status situation, and they'll tell you that in a minute, because if that were the case, why do we see most of those who are wealthy, I'm talking about filthy rich, why do we see many of the African-American men or the black men, why is it that they got to have this woman? The question has not been answered yet, although we've answered it. But the question, the rhetorical question is, what makes you think that this woman is better than another woman? I mean, there's something inside of you. There's an insatiable desire that you're going after this woman because in your mind, in your heart, you can't say it, but you feel that this woman is something. She's making you something. You know, you esteem her. You give her. You even treat her better, because when you were in the relationship with the African American woman, you treated her like you know what. But now that you're with this woman, you open the door for her when she gets out of the car, you cook, you do all these things. So what makes you do those things for her that you didn't do for the other woman?
Right. And things that we covet. And I remember Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal Lecter was talking to Agent Starling, and they were trying to catch Buffalo Bill. And he said, it's not going to be long-winded, but he said, what is it that we covet? And she was like, I don't understand. Talk to me. He said, we covet the things that we see every day. Now, I'm going to say this. I think we also covet the things in the black community. We covet those things that we don't see every day. And that's why I was talking about the segregation in this country and how white women or white people, they marry interracially less than anybody else. So it's like, that's a big thing. If I could do this, right. You know, if I could have this is something that y'all don't have. Many of y'all don't have. So it becomes a status symbol because it's like everyone has this type of woman. All of us in the hood has a black woman, but not many of y'all have one of these. And it's like, this is the Cadillac right there. I got the newest Cadillac. I got the newest pair of Jordans. I got the color that nobody has. This is our mindset as men. We compete with other men. And so the trophy wife is something that everyone has. You know, white, black, whatever, you have a trophy wife, because that means that she's a woman that you just got for her looks, and you just want her on your arm for everybody to see. But with us, that trophy wife is, when we reach a certain status, this is the trophy wife for us. And this is the problem that we're talking about. When you see this woman or this type of woman, because we could be 100, we could keep it 100. A lot of times when we're not talking about the wealthy, when we talk about interracial, you'll see a black man, he'd just take whatever white woman is available. And I'm saying, like, you know, and they make jokes about that. You know, even Chris Rock said, you know, the white woman was like, what's wrong? The man was like, what's wrong? She's like, a black man said I look good. Do I look fat to you? Like, you know, it's like our standards is it becomes lower because we don't see that. We just see that that's the white woman. And that's what I'm saying is a problem.
That's true. And if you have a telephone, cell phone, we ask that you call the number at 361-405-6111. Again, that's 361-405-6111. And I want to bag up the train and go back to the standards of beauty again, because all our lives, Kev, we have seen what beauty is from others' perspective. We've seen what beauty is in magazines. We've seen what beauty is on television. We've seen what beauty is everywhere we've gone. And so now that we've gotten older, that has crept into our minds. It have crept into our hearts. And so now when we look at people, when we look for beauty, we look for the same standards that have been given to us ever since we were little children. But we don't really say that, but that's what's working in us. This is why some African American men, some black men, we like light-skinned women. Right. Because that reminds them of a white woman because she's close to them, see? And we will not, they'll say something about, I will not date a woman of a certain hue. And I tell my students this all the time. I have at least 3 of them that are chocolate. And I always encourage them. I always encourage them because I tell them that when you get older, even now, some people are going to say things about you that they wouldn't say about the other ones that are lighter skinned. Because that's what has happened to our minds, and we got to address that.
We call it color struck. Exactly. When I was coming up, we called it color struck. And this is what I was talking about with the woman that had kids. The family was color struck. They valued the grandkids that was mixed over the regular regular kids. And even coming up, I'm a darker skinned brother. I felt that. I felt like I was ugly because I was darker. Okay. You know, my sister was brighter than me, my mom, and people like, oh man, they even like people make comments. That's your sister. Man, what happened to you? And so I grew up with that. Like, I got you. You know, I'm just, you know, that's I wasn't fortunate. You know, so many of us that was in our family, so many of our grandkids that was like darker skinned, and they talked about us in a certain way, or they spoke about us in a certain way. You get into it, kids, they're gonna be like, oh, that's why you this, or that's why you this. This is something that's embedded in our mind, and this is something that I don't think that others can understand. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, Jack, when you really don't understand how embedded this is in our own community, that even within our households growing up, it's people that's brighter than you in different complexions, and they're being treated better. Or people in our community, actresses and stuff like this. This person is beautiful. That person is ugly. This dude, and women do that with the guys. This guy, he got these color eyes and he's bright skinned. This guy, Wesley Snipes,
good hair and all this stuff.
Yeah, all this that irks me when I hear good hair, and it's still, and people still have, and I understand it because it's embedded in us. And or, you know, your complexion is this, and this, or your eyes is this, and this. What makes good and bad? What makes good and bad was racism in this country.
I'm telling you, man, you can't have said it any clearer. And even with our arguments and jokes, when we call ourselves joning or critiquing each other, when we're having fun or we're talking about each other, instead of us talking about something that's really humorous, we will call people that's darker than me, you black dog, and everybody will laugh. Well, what's so funny that person's hue is darker because we've been psychologically robbed of who we are, see? Or you're darker than midnight. And everybody laughs on the bus when you go to school because that's supposed to be funny. That's not funny. It shows that we have not gotten into loving who we are as a people. And because we have allowed the media, we have allowed entertainers, we have allowed all of this to affect us to the degree that when we get older, when we look in the mirror, many of us don't want to say it, especially us African-American men. We don't like what we see. And so to change that, I can't change my hue. So I must go find somebody that represents this. And when I get it, now I'm all good. Like I told you earlier, when you see me with a European woman, I'm different now. You know, I'm talking now like this, but when you see me with a European woman, I'm like, hey, Kev, what's happening, man? How are you doing?
We used to say, you nappy headed, all this stuff, negativity, connotations. This is because it's been embedded in us. The inferiority complex, anything about you. I had a woman say, I was talking about women going natural, and I was like, I'm applauding you if you're doing this. And I understand that's not for everybody. Because of what we've been through. I understand it. That's the reason I understand it. Not that I think you shouldn't, but woman came on there like she like, hey, you talking about this and this? I got straight, I got perm and da. And I said, well, I'm talking about people that appreciate the natural beauty. And she's like, who want nappy hair? And in my mind, I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to go into one more thing about this. I used to do the thing. I used to send clothes to Africa. And I had a connect in Africa. I'm like, hey, I'm sending you American clothes. Like when we get African clothes, we sell them. You know, as a lady had an African boutique. I'm like, you could get American clothes. And I used to get the shoes and everything from people. Like sometime, like, you know, thrift stuff or whatever. And I would send it to this dude. He was like, man, he's from Nigeria. He was my connect. And he was like, man, how's America? I want to come to America. And he had this vision of America that was like the American dream. And he said, man, if I could get enough money, I'm gonna come to America. And he said, I'm gonna get me a white girl.
Come on, Kev.
And I'm like, bro, like, you know, he's like my son's.
Right.
I'm like, bro, that was his. It's like, bro, you you in the motherland and you thinking about coming to America to get a white woman because see, that's success.
Exactly.
If you get here, I done made it.
Right.
Then if I get here, I'm gonna get whatever. I'm gonna get me a Mercedes. I'm gonna get this, and I'm like, and I just said, I'm like, bro, okay, I feel you. If that's your dream, do what you do. You got a whole continent full of beautiful women.
Yeah.
But your dream is to come over here and get you a.
Let me say something real, just straightforward to if there's a brother that's watching this who may be in a relationship with a European woman, a white woman, or what have you. I just want to let you know that if you feel the way we're talking about you're better because of that, you got to cut that out. That's not true. You are who you are. That woman doesn't make you. You don't make her. You should be proud of who you are as a human being, as an individual. You can look at the race. You can look at all the things we've been fed and what we have internalized. But the bottom line is you're no better than no one else. No one else is better than you. But yet you can't see these people. You can't see these people as something that's superior than you. And you put yourself, because what you're doing is you're really putting yourself down. You're putting your mama down. You're putting your daddy down. Everybody that looks like you. You're not saying this, but you're doing it because you don't like who you are. And therefore, you want to get rid of that and try to find somebody else that's going to make up for all of your inferiority that's internal, that it'll never happen. So you're going to always be looking for a white woman. Last thing I want to say, that's why a lot of black men, when they leave one white woman, they go to another one and another one and another one and another one because they think they have arrived now. So I can't go backwards, Kev. So if you see me with a white woman and then the next time you see me with a black woman, then I'm feeling my heart. Many of us feel as though I've regressed. You see, I've gone back.
Right.
So now I got to keep that status. I got to keep that Cadillac. I got to keep those jewels. And so this idea that we have, and this has got to stop. It must stop.
Right. I'm gonna read a couple of more comments. Coretta says, she said, I worked with a white woman who had a lawyer on retainer in case her white husband screwed up. She said, they stay prepared to get their money, house, etc. And she said, she just corrected. She said, white woman, which I read it like that. And Candace Walker, she said, the black woman builds a black man up to be with a white woman. Whoa.
I really wish I could get more on that, Kev. I want to hear more about that because I don't want to just take.
I think that's the consensus that a lot of, like when we're talking about you're with them and they understand us and your plights, and you like say like Michael Jordan. Or something. You got a sister that was with you in high school before you made it. She stayed with you. She had kids with you. Now you sign your contract. She's with you. But then you still got rid of her. And she was there when you was down. That's what I think that means. Like they're thinking like that woman builds you up. She's there with you. Because a lot of these players, they're not in the fluent neighborhoods. They're in the hood. A lot of these players, I got a dream to make it. So they're making it off of their talents. They're not making it because they're a scientist or a mathematician or astrophysics, they're making it because they're a ball player. And now you come from the hood. And that woman is with you in the hood. Then when you go to college, now I ain't messing with y'all. Because I know I'm gonna get millions and stuff like this. I'm gonna get me. And a lot of times they getting the woman then, when they get away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I got that. Because a lot of that has to do with low self-esteem. Because sometimes we're slick. Sometimes we have an agenda. We don't tell people, but we have an agenda. When I say we, I'm talking about those African-American men who, in the back of their mind, they live for it. They never tell you that this is what they want in life. They never tell you that they really want a white woman. They never say that. So what we do is we go through life, we get us some sisters, and they're basically our stepping stones. We're just moving along. And as soon as we can strike and get this white woman, now we feel as though they have helped us. But at the same time, this is what we always wanted. We really didn't want that. See, we had an agenda that we never talked about. So we weren't satisfied until we got what we were really trying to get all of our lives. And no one's going to tell you that. If you ask a person, was that your goal?
It was one player that came out. And I think he was dogging black women out. He like, and the women got upset because he said that. He basically was saying like, why white women are basically better and all these things like this. And he caught a lot of flack. I don't remember his name. This was like a couple of years ago. And that mindset, this is I don't care about people having interracial marriages. And if it's a black woman with a white man, I don't care. If it's a white a black man with a white woman, I don't really care. But when you act like you're better, this is what I'm saying. When you act, you should feel like you're better than everybody else because you got your wife that you have.
Right.
You know, I could like, this is my wife. I'm better than y'all. Your wife is she's not my wife. I should feel like that regardless.
Right.
But when you act like you start bringing race in it, I never date a black woman. You know, I never do this. And it's like you're saying, even if you didn't have this woman that you have, you're not going back. Like you say, it's white woman, white woman, white. When I hear people talk like that, like, man, white, you talk about everything that's wrong with a black woman. I have friends that's with interracial marriages and stuff, and they talk about everything that's wrong with a black woman. And I'm like, you haven't even dated a black woman. You don't even know. And I say like this, if you a black woman, they talk about, like Candace was saying, the BS. And a lot of times it ain't BS. It's like they're not putting up with BS. Going to go for the BS. Right. They're coming from the same streets that you come from. They speak your language. They know when you run in game or something, and they're not going for it. Other people that didn't come up in our neighborhood, they don't know the game that we're in. So I mean, I was there in Europe. I was there in Germany. They wasn't hip to the game that a lot of the fellas was doing. Right. So it's different. So you could run game on them or do these things like this, or they're put up with it. And that's what I think the BS is. But once they catch on to it, they may not put it. Tiger Woods got popped in the head, and you know, when his woman found out. But she probably should have found out way sooner than that. See, that's what I'm saying. She was late to the game, but
You know what I would love to do? This will never happen, so just bear with me. And I'm not going to be very loquacious or long-winded, but just bear with me. You've seen those commercials where they have like someone that did something, or they may be a whistleblower, and they have them in the dark and they're talking and you can see their silhouette. No, Kev, I gotta say this. I wish we could get a person who was honest, a black man who was honest, an African-American man who was honest about this subject matter. And we asked this man, how does this white woman make you feel? And he's in the dark, so you can't see him. I would love for him to tell us the truth about it. Because if once he says the things that we know he's going to say, it will blow our minds, but it will be history unfolding because we already know that happens. We just don't come out and say it. Because, you know, when the dark, when you ask him, why did you choose this white woman? He's going to tell you in the dark, well, because she makes me feel really good. A black woman can't make you feel that good? No, it was only until I found the white woman that I feel this way. You know, and you go on and ask questions and you find out that this man is a sick man. But he thinks in his heart that he's something. This is why he's in the dark, because I'd cut the light on him and tell him to get up out of this interview, because that's how a lot of us feel. We just don't say it, Kev. And this is what the sisters are commenting on. This is what you and I are saying. We have a problem with some people's mindset because they don't realize that a lot of us have been destroyed almost when it comes to this whole race dating and how we think that because we have a white woman and it goes the other way, but that's another broadcast. But that we really feel as though we are something. We have arrived because we have a white woman.
I started out doing this like radio talk show stuff. Someone asked me to come on as a guest to follow up a black person that was talking about black women like that. Like you said, they were saying they had never dated black women, you know, and they was like, well, why? He's on the show with all black women and they're talking to him and they're saying, well, why? Well, black women don't have any culture. White women understand me. You know, I like country music and women, black women. And it's like, you know, so what they asked me to come on to follow up, like, oh, you a strong black man. We just had this dude on here basically disrespecting our women. So they asked me to come. That was how I began coming on these radio shows and talk shows and doing my own thing, because it's us out there that think like that.
Yes, sir.
That constantly want to, like I said, if you like who you like who you like. But don't think it's because of race that they're better than us. Don't think, and I don't care if it's a sister with a white dude. And I'm gonna say the same thing. If you think, well, white men are so they don't cheat, they do, and all these little ignorant things, and it's like, then what you're saying is they're better than us. That's all you're saying. You're saying they're better. Not that your husband, you just love him. I understand that, but no, when you're saying white men is this and black men are that, or white women is this and black women are that, then what you're saying is you think that they're better than.
Yes, you
do. And then you, like you said, you're doing it against yourself.
Yeah. And you brought that into a relationship because of the relationship that you had with an African-American woman. It may not have been all that. And regardless of what she did, all women aren't the same. All men are not the same. You have white women who are no good. You have white women who are good. You have black women who are no good. You have black women who are good. You have black men who are good, black men who are not good, and it goes on and on. White men who are good, white men who are not good. So how can you take the relationship that you had, even though you were right in the relationship? Why would you take that and dump that baggage on a whole group of people that you don't even know, but you're going around acting as if you are an authority on all of the races and all the relationships based upon what happened to your sorry, you know what?
Yeah. Now I'm gonna go back to something that we were talking about earlier, the stereotypical, the racism thing, the effects of racism. They had the video. I don't know if you probably could clarify who was doing the video where they had the black kids and the white kids and they gave them the dolls.
Come on,
you know,
teach.
These were kids that was like maybe 3-4 years old, and they were saying, "Show me the evil doll," and they had the black doll and the white doll. And all of the kids were saying they don't know, the dolls don't have a name or nothing. They just show me the evil doll. The black doll was the evil doll. Show me the good doll. The white doll was the evil doll. Show me the mean doll. The black doll was the mean. See, this is racism. This is something that's embedded. Even at that age, before they were even able to go to school, this is something that they had that's somehow embedded in them. That negativity is the blackness.
Wow.
For the white kids and for the black kids themselves. Wow. Even though the history of this world, you should have, if you had a Jewish kid and you put somebody in a Nazi uniform and you had somebody in a Jewish uniform and they say, "Show me the evil one," I guarantee you they're going to point to the Nazi because that's embedded in them because of their history. With us, it's the opposite because we have been imposed upon. This is racism. This is what I'm talking about. It's structural. It's systemic. Everything we see, God is white. Everything is white.
Good.
Most of the presidents are white. All our superheroes are white. You know, this is what I'm saying. So this is embedded in us. And some people don't understand where this comes from when we having these conversations because this has been embedded in you to think that this is what's
and
good.
it hasn't been done to you. So you don't understand, or you don't even open up to say, I can see where they're coming from.
Right.
So
that's why we're having this conversation. We want people to be able to understand. And if you want to call in, anybody could call in and we can have this conversation. You don't just have to make a statement, get off. Have a conversation. You want to talk about it, we can talk about it. Like, I think that we touched a lot of things on
and see, the thing that was so poetic and eloquent when you were talking, I was thinking about something to add to that because you've already cooked it. I just wanted to put, the little sides in. You didn't cook the meat. But what I'm trying to say is that little scenario that you gave with the little kids saying that this doll was evil because it was black and this doll was good because it was white. This doll was nice that was white. The doll that was black was mean or evil and what have you. The poetic and the sad thing that's going on now, the irony is that many of us have grown up as grown men, African-American men. We've grown up. And instead of us talking about the doll being evil, because we would say, I would never say that. But yet we pick people and we pick, that's the good woman. That's the bad woman.
Right.
That's the bitches. That's the nice woman.
Yeah.
That's the mean woman. That's the good woman. So we've done the same thing. The only thing is, Kev, we've just grown up and we've utilized that in a relational way, as opposed to saying, this is not a test, this is real life. And that's how sad it is.
And like you said, good hair, bad hair.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. When you talk about something being good and it's not naturally coming from you, then what you're saying is yours is bad. What's naturally coming from you is bad. And you may have a black person with straighter hair and you still calling that good hair because it's the same psychological damage that you have gone through. And we are not correcting it. So it comes out in some form of fashion. It comes out in who you're with. It comes out because once I made it, I'm rich, I'm this. So I gotta have something that rich people have. Rich people don't drive around in Fords, you know what I'm saying, in Chevys and things like this. Those 300 whatever Chryslers that we thought was no, they gonna have the real deal. They not gonna want what everybody else has. They're gonna have a Bentley, they're gonna have a Rolls Royce, they're gonna have these Lamborghinis and whatever, because those are status symbols.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing. We're having what everybody else has that's rich in our mindset.
Right. I just want to say to all those who are watching this broadcast, Kev and myself, we truly appreciate you watching this broadcast. We wish you would tell someone else to join in, because as you can see, our topics, we don't sugarcoat the topics. We do it in love. And we thank y'all for watching this broadcast, taking time out of your busy afternoon and checking this broadcast out. If you didn't get a chance to see it from the beginning, go back and watch the whole show. And we want to let you know that we want you to love yourself for who you are. Always realize that inside of you is something special. It's beautiful. It's great. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. And you should never take that and take it and do something with it that you shouldn't, which is give it to somebody else and think that what you have is not as good as what they have, which when you look at it, we all are a part of the human race. So we got to act like it. We got to act like it. Man.
All right. Priest, I appreciate everyone showing up and all the comments, and we'll have a better show for y'all next time.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.